Nissan e-Power versus Toyota hybrid, series hybrid versus full hybrid, engine as generator versus power split e-cvt, and everyone online throwing around opinions like they've torn these systems apart on a bench. If you've ever wondered, is Nissan e-Power actually smarter than Toyota's hybrid? Is a series hybrid better than Toyota's power split? Which one do I trust to own long-term? You're asking the right questions. Because Nissan's e-Power and Toyota's hybrid synergy drive are not just marketing flavors of the same thing. They're fundamentally different engineering choices with very different implications for efficiency, reliability, and how they feel on real roads and in real traffic. I'm GearHead. I'm not interested in fanboy wars or brochure talk. I care about torque paths, thermal loads, component stress, and how that all turns into either 200,000 miles of calm ownership or a car you regret buying. If that's how you want to think about hybrids before you spend thousands on one, make sure you're subscribed. This is exactly the kind of decision that looks simple from the outside and gets very real when the car is 5 or 10 years old. Let's break down Nissan e-Power versus Toyota hybrid the way an engineer would, how each system actually works, where the stress lives, and which one I'd rather be stuck with long-term. First, what is Nissan e-Power really? Nissan loves to sell e-Power as electric car feeling without plugging in, wheels always driven by electric motor, engine only used to generate power, and that's basically true. Under the skin of a Nissan e-Power car like the Note e-Power, Qashqai e-Power, or X-Trail e-Power, you've got a gasoline engine, typically a 1.2-liter or 1.5-liter turbo 3-cylinder, depending on the model. You have a generator motor connected to that engine, a traction motor that drives the wheels, and a relatively small battery pack. Crucially, the wheels are driven only by the electric motor. The engine never mechanically connects to the wheels. It only spins the generator. That means e-Power is a series hybrid. Energy flow looks like this most of the time. Gasoline, to the engine, to the generator, to electricity, to the motor, to the wheels. Sometimes it goes from the battery, to the motor, to the wheels for short, pure EV moments like low-speed city driving or coasting. The engine's job is to keep the battery in a certain state of charge and supply power when the motor needs more than the pack can sustain. So you really are driving electric all the time, but your electricity is being generated right there in the car. Now, Toyota's hybrid system, hybrid synergy drive with e-cvt, is different. You'll find it in the Prius, the Corolla and Corolla Cross hybrid, the Camry hybrid, the RAV4 and Highlander hybrid, Lexus RX, ES, NX, and UX hybrids, and more. Toyota's setup is series parallel, also called a power split hybrid. Inside the transaxle, you have a gasoline engine, usually Atkinson cycle, MG1, which is a motor and generator, MG2, the main drive motor, a planetary gear set that mechanically ties the engine, MG1 and MG2 together, and reduction gears and a differential to the wheels. In Toyota's design, the wheels are driven by a combination of the electric motor, MG2, and the engine via the planetary gear set. Sometimes it acts a bit like a series hybrid, with the engine driving MG1 and MG2 driving the wheels. Sometimes it acts like a parallel hybrid, with the engine and MG2 both pushing the wheels mechanically. But the key is, the engine can and does send torque mechanically to the wheels. You're not only going engine to generator to motor like an e-Power. That difference matters. From a pure architecture standpoint, Nissan e-Power is a series hybrid, and Toyota hybrid synergy drive is a series parallel hybrid or power split. So what's the big deal? Why does this matter? Let's talk about efficiency first. There are 3 main energy conversion stages in both systems. Toyota goes from gasoline to engine shaft power to partly electrical via MG1 and partly mechanical directly through the planetary gear set to the wheels. Nissan e-Power goes from gasoline to engine shaft power to electrical via the generator to the motor to the wheels. Every time you convert energy, you lose some as heat. In Nissan e-Power, engine to generator is some loss, generator to battery or DC bus is some loss, battery or DC bus to traction motor is some loss, traction motor to wheels is some loss. Toyota can choose. For some driving, it can send more energy mechanically from the engine to the wheels with one set of gear losses. For other bits, it can use electric only or engine to generator to motor when it's best. That series parallel flexibility is a big part of why Toyota hybrids, when designed well, have excellent real-world efficiency at a wide range of speeds. Series hybrids like Epower shine when you can run the engine at its most efficient operating point most of the time, and you're at speeds and loads where an EV-like drive with a generator topping up is efficient overall. But in steady highway cruising, where a regular engine can already run efficiently in a good gear, adding engine to generator to motor steps can be a slight penalty compared to just coupling the engine mechanically via gears. That's exactly why Nissan's e-Power excels in urban and mixed conditions. Owners report great city economy and a nice smooth drive. Toyota's hybrids do very well everywhere and often beat e-Power type series systems on long highway runs because the engine can drive the wheels mechanically at an efficient RPM. So if your life is mostly city, stop and go, and moderate speeds, both systems will be strong, but the power split might have a small edge in versatility. Now, driving feel. Nissan's selling point is legit. Because the wheels are always driven by an electric motor, you get instant torque, a smooth single-ratio feeling, no shifting, and no engine RPM directly tied to the throttle. That can feel very EV-like, which a lot of people love. The downside, engine noise and behavior can feel disconnected. You might be cruising, tap the pedal, and the engine suddenly flares up to a higher RPM even though road speed isn't changing much, because the engine is not tied to the wheels, it's just reacting to power demand. Toyota's hybrid system, e-cvt, is notorious for weird engine sound at first, the classic Prius thing where the engine revs up and just sits there. But in Toyota's system, the e-cvt effectively manages engine speed to balance power and efficiency, and many newer Toyota and Lexus hybrids have improved noise tuning to make that less intrusive. In short, e-Power provides a very EV-like drive, but engine noise can be a generator buzz. Toyota has that e-cvt feel, which is smoother now than earlier Priuses, with engine RPM that is sometimes odd but predictable. From a feel perspective, I'd say if you want as much EV sensation as possible without charging, e-Power is closer. If you want a battle-tested, slightly more conventional feeling over the years, Toyota still has the edge.
Now the big one, reliability and longevity. If we're asking which system is actually better from an engineer's durability standpoint, we have to talk about component count and stress, time in the field, and failure modes. For Toyota Hybrid Synergy Drive, the time in service is about 25 years. There are millions of vehicles globally, known to hit 200,000 to 300,000 plus miles regularly. The power split e-cvt has all fixed gears, a planetary set, MG1 and MG2. There are no belts, no traditional clutch packs, and very few moving parts compared to a stepped automatic or dual clutch. Common Toyota hybrid failure modes include hybrid battery degradation after 10 to 15 plus years, though often later if cooled well, inverter failures in early Prius generations, which were largely addressed via recalls and improvements, engine side issues like EGR clogs and head gaskets on specific engines with neglect, and rust and suspension issues on older high-mile examples. The e-cvt hybrid transaxle itself is widely considered one of the most robust automotive transmissions on the road when maintained decently. For Nissan e-Power, the time in service is much shorter. It debuted in Japan with the Note e-Power around 2016 and rolled out in other markets in the Qashqai, X-Trail, and others in recent years. Reliability so far has been generally decent in early years, but there are not enough 200,000 plus or 300,000 mile examples in harsh service to make bold claims yet. Historically, Nissan has struggled with belt-type CVTs, but e-Power is a very different architecture. What can go wrong in series hybrids like e-Power over the long term? The generator and engine work hard as a team, so generator bearings and insulation must be robust. The traction motor is always the drive source, so its reliability is critical. Power electronics see continuous cycling from the engine to the generator to motor usage, and the battery sees frequent charge and discharge cycles as a buffer. In fairness, those are similar stress domains to Toyota's hybrid, but Toyota has had far longer to iron out weird edge cases, particularly around inverter cooling and battery management. Nissan is playing catch-up here, and Nissan doesn't have Toyota's reputation for decades-long over-engineering. They can absolutely design good systems, but if I'm betting my own money at 300,000 plus miles, track record weighs heavy. Let's talk about engine life in these two. In Toyota hybrids, engines are usually Atkinson cycle, detuned for efficiency and assisted by MG2. They often run at modest RPM and loads, especially in the city. Stress on the bottom end, the crank and rods, is lower than a small turbo-gas engine. That's why many Priuses, Camrys, and RAV4 engines last as long as the car, provided you don't roast the head gasket with EGR or overheat issues. In Nissan Epower, the engine's job is to be an onboard generator. It often runs at the RPM where it's efficient, which is good from a fuel perspective, but it may see more time at medium to high load when power demand is high, because it has to support the motor and top up the battery. The engine is decoupled from abrupt torque demands, since the wheels don't shock it, but it runs whenever the system wants more energy. It might run at fairly high specific output, especially on smaller 3-cylinder turbo variants, and it lives under the usual stress of turbocharging in Nissan e-Power models. In long-term durability rules, a naturally aspirated Atkinson cycle Toyota engine with electric assist is one of the gentler lives you can give a 4-cylinder. A small turbo 3-cylinder in a Nissan e-Power working as a generator can be okay, but the turbo, higher cylinder pressures, and more complex thermal load profiles do not scream, "I'm carefree at 300,000 miles," the way Toyota's naturally aspirated hybrids do. Add Nissan's okay but not stellar reliability history versus Toyota's "we built the Corolla, Toyota trucks, and the Lexus LS" history, and again, the bias is clear. So which system is actually better? Define better. If better means it feels more like an EV, has smoother throttle, has no mechanical connection between the engine and wheels, and provides good city fuel economy without plugging in, Nissan e-Power is a very clever solution. It's genuinely nice for people who want an EV vibe but can't or don't want to charge. If better means you want the highest probability this thing will still be working at 200,000 to 300,000 miles, you want a system that's already been abused by taxis all over the world, you want component stress and complexity minimized, and you want the engineering equivalent of a Corolla powertrain in hybrid form, then Toyota's hybrid synergy drive with e-cvt wins. In 2026, if you told me I'm buying one hybrid and I want to keep it for 10 to 15 years and 250,000 plus miles, I'd say a Toyota hybrid like a Prius, Corolla hybrid, Camry hybrid, RAV4, Highlander, or Lexus equivalent is the safer long-term bet. Nissan e-Power is promising, fun, and probably fine for normal ownership lengths, but it doesn't yet have the mileage track record to knock Toyota off the durability throne. That doesn't mean e-Power is a bad system. It's not. It's genuinely interesting and good for certain use cases. It just means if you're playing the long game and your money rides on which hybrid architecture is more proven under abuse, Toyota has already passed the test that Nissan is just starting to sit. If this helped you see past the marketing and actually understand how these systems differ mechanically and in long-term risk, make sure you're subscribed. Next, I'm going to break down something even more useful if you're cross-shopping, what to check specifically on a used Toyota hybrid versus a used Nissan hybrid, batteries, inverters, engine noise, and scan data, so you don't just buy the right system on paper, you buy the right car in the real world. I'm GearHead. Every hybrid system has a story, and together we're going to decode which ones you can realistically trust when the odometer starts getting into the "I can't believe I drove it this far" territory.